Your EDID. Okay.
So who are you?
Mike McCue.
And we're at Flipboard.
It's great to have you back.
Yeah, it's
my exciting.
Still my favorite iPad app.
I am very happy to hear that.
And everybody else in the industry, I give them hell. Have you gotten to the Flipboard bar yet?
Well, hopefully we'll be your favorite iPhone app soon.
Oh, tell me about that.
Well, that is the next. We've been working very hard on that. That is. It's been quite a journey, and we've tried to take a lot of the thinking around Flipboard, the idea of a social magazine, all your friends sharing things with you across all these social networks, and putting it together in one beautiful package, and bring that to the iPhone. Yeah. And so we've actually started getting prepared by introducing Flipboard accounts, which you know about. Yeah. We also introduced Tumblr and 500 Pixels as two new social networks that are now available on Flipboard.
Yeah, 500 Pixel, the 500px is beautiful.
Thank you very much. Really it's incredible service. Yeah, I mean it's like high-end Flickr, really gorgeous. So we're trying to pull all these different social networks into this one beautiful package. And then we created Flipboard accounts so that ultimately people can bring that package with them to the iPhone.
Now let's back up a second because I haven't been to see you on video for a while. You guys have a ton of competition. I mean, and it's rumored to be more coming, right? So what is Flipboard, first of all, for the people who don't know what it is and they haven't yet got an iPad or just got an iPad for Christmas or something crazy like that?
Well, Flipboard is a social magazine, and it's basically a way to look at all the things that your friends are sharing with you across all the different social networks that you use. Facebook, Twitter, Flickr, Instagram, 500 Pixels now, Tumblr, etc. And we organize all this content in a way that's reminiscent of print. It uses the timeless principles of print, pagination, beautiful photography, beautiful typography, a sense of pacing and flow and rhythm through timelines and stories. That is really what Flipboard is all about, and it's been an amazing ride over the last year and a half since we shipped it.
Yeah, you don't just have social networks either, right? You have brands like Rolling Stone, Economist, National Geographic, and a bunch of others.
Well, these are the things that people are sharing on these social networks, right? People are going to The Economist and sharing an article, on Facebook or on Twitter. There are billions of posts a day on Facebook, and Twitter, I think, is somewhere in the neighborhood of 180 million tweets a day. This is an amazing time we're living in, where all of these traditional brands are being shared now on these social networks. And so what we wanted to do was make those brands look amazing on these social networks when you view them on an iPad. Yeah. And so we bring back the notion of pagination for something like Vanity Fair or National Geographic. We bring back the kinds of beautiful layouts that you typically see in a magazine but don't see on a website.
So, first of all, you've been faced with a lot of competition in the last year.
Yeah.
I mean, AOL has a thing, Editions, I think they call it. CNN bought Zeit, and there's Pulse, and there's Google's supposed to be working on something, and I mean, you must feel like God, everybody's after you.
It is a little weird. Every week or so, it seems I wake up to an article about some Flipboard killer or something. But I think that this is a very exciting space. When you look at something as revolutionary as the iPad, and that combining with social media, and then also from a technological point of view, HTML5. You bring those things together, you have a recipe for amazing innovation. Each one of these companies that you mentioned are taking a very different approach to that mixture, right? Flipboard is very heavily social. So that's one thing where we're very different than all of the other folks that you mentioned. We are really about looking at your social media. And so we look at all this content through the lens of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. It's more about looking and finding at all the things your friends are sharing, and what might be a photograph that they took at a party over the weekend, right next to an article that they posted about Iran. And this is what I think is so revolutionary about social media. And so we really wanted to seize that opportunity. A lot of the other folks are doing personalized news, right? So there are new takes on personalized news that are rendered on an iPad. and those are great products as well. But this is something that does news. We do news, but it's really more in the broad context of social media.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the iPhone. How do you the iPad has a surface that has an affordance for reading news.
Yeah.
And it looks sort of like a magazine or a book, or
Yeah.
and it has a surface that makes it nice to read news. So how do you translate that to the small screen of the iPhone?
Well, that is the design challenge. You nailed it right there. That is the big challenge. And now the iPhone is the number one thing that our users have been requesting. They want to be able to take Flipboard, all the power of Flipboard, put it in their pocket and travel with it. They want to be able to use it when they're standing in line at Starbucks. And they want it to be fast and beautiful just like it is on the iPad. That's a tall order. And so we've been working for literally the last year to try to build this, and we've had to build a design from the ground up, optimized for the iPhone. It's almost like an entirely new product, but it's something we're really proud of. And the craftsmanship on this product is, I think, will set a new standard for applications on the iPhone.
Well, can we see it?
Yes. and in fact, let me start off by just showing you a couple things on the iPad, just to sort of underscore what we were talking about. So one of the things that blogs that I really like on my iPad is a Tumblr blog called From Me to You. Yep. And here you can see what this looks like. It's really gorgeous, and I can tap in.
You don't read my blog every morning?
Oh, well, I actually look at your tech influencers list all the time.
I do too. That's a great list.
It's a great list. So this one here you can see is a cinemagraph on my iPad. And then, I'll just show you one other thing as an example, and I'll show what these things look on the iPhone. So, let's go and take a look at, for example, this article on Dwell. I really like Dwell. It's a really fantastic magazine, and here you can see where we've formatted this particular web page into what looks like magazine pages, and look just how gorgeous this is. Yes. And it works in landscape and portrait and so on. And so the question is, how do you take an experience like this and bring it down to the iPhone? Yeah. So let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to start off by just showing you what the first time user experience is. So the very first time somebody downloads Flipboard on the iPhone, they're going to see this initial startup screen. And it's very subtle, but you can see that as this woman down here is sort of looking over a city, and when the wind blows, it sort of lifts up this flap down here at the bottom of the page. And this is to help people understand that on the iPhone, you flip up to do things. So we felt that for a device that you hold with one hand, and for the iPhone, people are very used to being able to just do this kind of an upward gesture with their thumb. Yeah. So what we wanted to do is, rather than having pages, more like sort of a stack of cards, if you will, that you can just sort of flip through. Yeah. And so here we have a really nice first-time experience where I can go in and just select, some initial categories to get started, right? And then go ahead and have it build my Flipboard from there. Or I can go in and sign in. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that.
So you sign in, you've already created an account on your iPad. I've done that as well.
Exactly. So
I don't yet have the iPhone version, but I've already signed in and created an account.
Exactly. That's right. And this way, anything that I put on my iPad will show up on my iPhone and vice versa. So that was really important for us to get in. So now I've gone ahead and I'm logging into my account. It's loading it in now. And you can see I've got all of my tiles available here, and I just flip through them vertically again to access them. And now let me show you around here a little bit. So we have our covers, cover stories. I'm going to get into that in a second. And then we have all of the tiles that I've got on my iPad. And now let's go take a look at that blog that I was showing you before. This is that Tumblr blog, From Me to You. Yep. This is a really beautiful blog, and what we wanted to do was render this in a way that was really beautiful and really fast to flip through. And so again, using that card analogy, I could go ahead and just kind of flip through each of these Tumblr posts, and look how beautiful that is. And just, if I want to, I can actually quickly flip through, kind of back and forth. If I see something catching my eye, I can just tap on it.
How are you caching this stuff? Because the geeks are probably going, "Wow, that's really nicely cached."
Thank you. Well, that is something that we worked very hard on to have this work actually well on a 3G network, and so we've had done a lot of work on the servers side to cache and format content in a way that allows it to be served up very quickly on the client. And there's a lot of pre-caching that we do on the client as well, pre-fetching, et cetera, behind the scenes to try to make sure that everything is there. There'll still be times when it's has to download stuff, but it's a pretty snappy experience.
Yeah.
So this is.
I can tell you, your engineers put a lot of time into that.
Yeah, thank you. That is definitely something we've put a lot of energy into. And this here is a cinematograph. You can sort of rotate it. And these are actually the same people that did the opening cinematograph for Flipboard on the iPhone. You can zoom in, and then when you're done reading that article, you can just swipe in and out. So it's really nice animation, just to kind of go in and out. It's kind of got this sort of buttery smooth feel to it.
Yep.
And this is Tumblr. So of course, if I like something on Tumblr, I can just heart it right there, and like it on Tumblr.
And then if I was watching on Tumblr, I would have seen your heart, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
By the way, that works with Facebook or Twitter or retweet or a favorite.
Exactly.
Or,
yep.
Instagram.
Instagram. And what we did.
You guys support all these different social networks.
That's right.
Really cool.
Eight different social networks right now. We're adding more all the time. This is also one of the things that we really wanted to try to do was create a way for you to just, from a single tap, like something. I know that sounds simple, but it's amazing. Most applications, it's one or two, or it's actually 2 or 3 different taps to like something, and that extra tap creates extra friction. And so you'll find yourself liking things much more frequently. It's a really, really nice experience.
Now, if I like it in Flipboard instead of liking it on Tumblr, does it do anything additional? Does Tumblr bring me more news, or does it change the behavior, or does it share it with other Flipboarders? Or?
Not yet. It is strictly a like on Tumblr. Though what I will say is that we use that then in our social relevancy to determine the kinds of things that you like and the people that you like. And then we can surface those kinds of content, that kind of content later on.
Got it.
So this Tumblr experience here is one example of a feed on Flipboard, but let's go look at some others. So let me come back and show you that article that I was looking at on Dwell, right? So I can flip through here. This is Flipboard Picks, and here's that article. I can tap on it. And
you have by the way, Flipboard Picks, you have an editorial team here picking, going through all of Twitter and Facebook and looking for great articles, right?
That's right.
To feature here.
Yeah, Flipboard.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Difference between a year and a half ago when you guys launched.
Absolutely. Well, part of being a social magazine is to have that sense of editorial and curation. We actually hired a guy named Josh Quittner, who was previously at Time Magazine, and he effectively is our editorial director, and he is helping us, along with some other great editors that we have on the team, curate really terrific content that we can put present to our readers in different ways and help them discover new and interesting sources. Flipboard Picks is a great way to do that. We can feature really, really beautiful, really interesting content that way.
Yeah. Who do you see as competition now? Is it like a New York Times, or is it one of the other aggregators, or is it,
there's really nothing.
Facebook itself.
No, I mean, we are very close allies of all the social networks as well as the publishers, right? So we're not competing with those guys. We, as you can see,
But you're competing for my time.
Well,
if I'm going to read news, I'm going to pick up one app or 2 apps. I'm not. I'm not going to go through 15 apps. My dad's not going to do that.
Right.
So you're competing with time with Facebook or Twitter.
Well, you are using Facebook on Flipboard. Flipboard is effectively like a Facebook browser. It's a true social media browser. You jump from feed to feed. You browse feeds rather than websites. Everything is structured. It's still the web, but it's organized in a social structure rather than a pure sort of page linking to another page structure.
Yeah.
And that's a fundamental difference. And then we go the extra step to render the content in a magazine-like paginated way, which goes beyond what you normally see on the web as well. Yeah. So there really isn't anything like this right now that's a direct competitor as a result. Like I said, you've got personalized news aggregators that aren't really they're social in that you can share something to Twitter and Facebook, but they're not letting you look at your Facebook feed or your Twitter feed or your Instagram feed, right?
Or other people's Twitter feeds, right? 'Cause
Right.
I put in here the Tech Meme Twitter feed,
Exactly.
and that built a newspaper feed.
That's right. That's exactly right.
What do you call these things? Flipboards? Because they're not really newspapers. They're not a paper anymore.
Right,
They look sort of like a news magazine or a newspaper.
Right. We don't, it's funny, we haven't actually come up with a formal name for them that we talk about externally. Internally, we call them sections.
Yeah.
They're like sections in a magazine, right? So you can have your Dwell section or your New York Times section, but I can also have my Robert Scoble Tech Influencers section. I can have...
By the way, a lot of people, when they talk about Flipboard, they know those little tiles at the beginning.
Yeah.
How many tiles, how many sections or tiles can we have now?
You can have as many as you want, except we will show the first 21 as actual tiles, and then the rest are in a list.
And I found that by adding more and more, and I was like, oh, it's letting me add more and more, but they're not showing up as tiles.
That's
so
right.
A lot of people think that the number of tiles is limited because the first version was limited.
That's right. The first version
People
was
forget
limited.
about,
In fact, the first version only had 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was only 1 page of tiles. Yeah, and so we've added to that. The number of tile limitation is there because it's a memory. We're loading those feeds and caching them in advance. And when we go higher than that with the current devices, the memory is just we run out of memory. So
a lot of people. Like, I'm a power user of Twitter. I have 20 lists. Most people don't have any lists.
Yeah.
You know? And my dad, he doesn't even know what Twitter is yet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He has like 15 friends on Facebook. I have 2,000. So you have to make this thing work for a wide range of people, right? From a power user like me to somebody like my dad who only has 15 friends on Facebook, right?
Well, certainly, especially for the iPad release, we wanted it to be just as applicable to my mom as it is to someone like you, and somebody who I consider a social media superhero. So there's that, and there's everyone in between, and that so 30% of our users don't even connect Flipboard to a social network. People like my mom, for example, they just don't really use Facebook. They don't use Twitter. There are still people like that in the world, believe it or not. And so for those people, we have things like Flipboard Picks. We have our content guides. We surface all this interesting content. You can just put Vanity Fair on your Flipboard or The New Yorker or National Geographic and read it right there. And we have these curated lists for news and categories, basically, for news and tech and sports and so on. So we've got a good solution for those folks. But where Flipboard really comes alive is when you connect it to these social networks, and that's really the power of it. On the iPhone release, what we've done is we've actually gone and sort of set the dial one notch more towards social power user, because we figured that anyone who's going to be checking something on their iPhone is going to be one step closer to a power user. My mom probably won't use this product, but I think that folks who are using social networks on a regular basis and standing in line at Starbucks and they just kind of want to check in on what's interesting, this is the product that I think they'll end up using.
And you can find you can really get a lot of weird stuff in there. You can grab anybody's Twitter list and put it in Flipboard. It's a little hard to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
For my dad, he doesn't even know what a Twitter list is.
Yeah. That's
and
right.
Second of all, he doesn't know how to put it into Flipboard.
Right.
I did it for him, by the way. I
Yeah.
built a World News Brand Twitter list, which has like New York Times,
I'm familiar with
and
that's a great list,
and stuff like that. And I put it in there. And he doesn't even know how it works. He doesn't know where that news came from, but he can open up Flipboard every morning and get his world news, right?
That's right. And what we're trying to do is build some lists that most people would be interested in. They're actually Twitter lists from an architectural point of view. Our news section is actually a Twitter list full of really great curated news content. So that's something that we're trying to do to help expose people to that idea. But you're right that there is a tremendous amount of power under the hood that people don't even realize is there. For example, social search. You can search across every social network for something like Syria or Libya, and you can see everything that's being tweeted at the moment about those topics. Or you can go look at every Instagram photo that's tagged with that, or every 500 pixels photo that's tagged with that. It's pretty powerful stuff, and then you can add that as a section to your Flipboard and track it.
Can you show me that? Because Facebook has this news story right now that they're going public. So can we search for like Facebook and see what's being reported?
Absolutely. So we'll go ahead and do that. Let's search for Facebook. Actually, let's try something a little less techy. Why don't we go and look for Occupy Wall Street?
Okay.
Okay. So, you know, I can put in Occupy Wall Street, I can put OWS in. Actually, let's go ahead and just put in Occupy Wall Street, just to show you the. Now, I'm accessing this, by the way, by just simply tapping on the search icon up here in the upper right, which is persistent throughout the app.
Oh, up there. Sorry.
Okay, and then and so now here you can see I've got some recommended section. This is actually a Twitter list that we've curated about Occupy Wall Street. Then you've got some Tumblr blogs about it. This is a Twitter search. So this is all tweets mentioning Occupy Wall Street.
So anything with the Occupy Wall Street hashtag would show up there.
That's right. Or in this case, any tweet with the words Occupy Wall Street in it, with that phrase, exactly, right up to the minute. And then you can add that as a section to your Flipboard, and so you can stay up to speed on a hashtag or on a phrase within
You can
Twitter.
see how powerful this is going to be for news, right? If you see a building burning down,
Yeah.
you probably can search for that building name, and within a few minutes, you're going to start seeing tweets and
Exactly.
things showing up there.
Exactly.
And by the way, does this let you build your own news? Can you put a photo into this, or?
Not yet. You can create your own Twitter lists, for example, like you were suggesting, or you can build a Facebook group or a Facebook page. But right now we don't have any tools that let you do that. There are other tools that do those kinds of things.
So you'd have to jump out to Instagram or Twitter to take a picture or to write a little tweet.
Exactly.
You know, I'm gonna occupy Wall Street and
Exactly.
and everybody's getting arrested, something like that.
Right. That's right. That's right. And here, let me just show you some of the other search results here. We've got Flickr groups about Occupy Wall Street, Facebook pages, Facebook groups, 500 pixels pictures. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Instagram photos. And so yeah, it's a very powerful capability that allows you to quickly sort of search through all these different social networks. It's a very different search than a web search. Yeah. It's search for all the things that people are talking about and the links that they're talking about, and that's a new thing.
Since you're using the phone has GPS in it.
Yeah.
Every iPad doesn't quite have accurate GPS in it yet. Are you doing anything with location? Are you bringing me news about Palo Alto, since we're in Palo Alto right now, for instance?
We aren't doing anything with location yet, other than actually having photographs tagged with location and showing you where they were taken. But that is something that we've got on our list of things to work on.
Cool.
High on our list.
Did it up yet?
Actually, I think we might have a little bit of a bug with our search.
We're seeing it a week early.
Yeah,
So, you guys,
so I'm going to have to look into that.
no problem. What else should we see in here?
Let's
keep
go
showing
through,
me around.
Let's go through your tech influencers list. Okay, so this is one of my favorite lists to check on Flipboard. This is a list that you put together of all these interesting tech influencers.
Now I put that together over on Twitter.
Right.
So I built a Twitter list of 400 people. I forget how many people are on there.
Yeah.
And it's all executives or journalists or VCs or people like you,
entrepreneurs,
anybody who's doing moving and shaking in the tech industry, right?
Right. And I love this feed. And so here you can see people who are posting. These are all tweets, of course, and I can just kind of flip through this timeline. It's all chronologically ordered in this case, right? And you can see we render each page in a slightly different way depending upon the content. So up here, for example, we just had some straight up tweets. You can see that there were 9 retweets here. There was 1 retweet here. If I want to, I can go in and retweet this easily. See who else retweeted it. And then when I flip up, I can see here in this case we have 2 articles that are on a page. In this case here we had a really nice high-res image, so we put that as a full bleed image here.
That makes sense because Chase Jarvis is a high-end professional photographer.
There you go. Yeah. And if I like this, again, I can just favorite it right there, 1 tap. If I want to, I can go in and actually jump into Chase's feed. So let me just go ahead and tap on that. And then it will actually show me all of the tweets that he's posting that I can again flip through here on my iPhone.
Very cool, really cool stuff. So you can put like we talked about, you can put any Twitter list in here. So if somebody has a list of Android developers, you can put it in here. By the way, let's talk about Android.
Well, we've been so focused on the iPhone, we haven't had time to think about the Android platform.
I bet you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
So we're going to hear about that in the future.
Yeah.
Right now it's iPhone and iPad. You're still...
It's iPhone and iPad, it's iOS, and there's a lot to do on that platform. I want to show you one other really important thing with this release, though.
Okay.
And that's something that I know you've been asking for a while. By the way, this is Chase's feed that I can flip through. And when I'm done, I can just swipe to go back, and I can continue on here in Tech Influencers. I can look at these photos, for example. Again, swipe to go back to my table of contents. But let me show you up here. This is a new thing that we're introducing with this release on the iPhone, and we'll soon have it on the iPad, and it's called Cover Stories. The idea behind Cover Stories is to give you a feed that you're probably going to want to check when you're standing in line at Starbucks.
Yeah.
This is...
You got 2 minutes to check.
Yeah, you know, like Flickr's interestingness feed? Yeah. Well, this is sort of like interestingness applied across all of your social networks. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, etc. And so what happens is that as you use those social networks, whether you're using them on Flipboard or not, we start to learn who matters most to you. Who are the people that are most interesting to you? People that perhaps you're tagged in a photograph with, or that you continually comment on their posts, or you retweet their posts often or favorite their posts often. And so what we do is we surface, when those people that are interesting post something, we try to surface them into cover stories. We also take the tiles that you put on your Flipboard, so news or tech or design or my tech influencers list, and we look at the things that are being shared there, and we surface the things that are the most shared within each of those sections.
I've started seeing this on the iPad version. It says featured or popular on Flipboard. So you're starting to look at those social signals.
That's right.
And trying to pick out 1 or 2 articles from each social network.
That's right. This is the work that we have been doing as a result of our Ellerdale acquisition. So that team has been working for the past year and a half or so on taking their technology and really integrating into Flipboard. And then we've worked really hard to build a really nice UI for that. So the way that looks here is in Cover Stories, for example, you can see I've got some things that are featuring, in this case, Marcy, my wife, Flipboard News, Boris, who's one of my co-workers here, and the Next Web, and 5 others. I can tap into this. And here you can see, oh, look at that. Marcy just posted a photo of us here in the New York office, actually. And I could go now she posted that on both Instagram and Facebook 45 minutes ago. I can go ahead and save, like that on Instagram and flip past that. And here you can see this is an article that's most shared in news right now. I can flip past that and take a look. And here's a tweet that's from one of my co-workers here. So he's somebody that I interact with quite frequently. So he's showing up. This is most shared in tech right now, at the moment. And here's Fareed Zakaria, who I actually added to my cover stories or to my Flipboard. And so when he shares something that's heavily retweeted, it shows up here in cover stories. And you can control this too. So for example, let's say that I didn't want to see posts from Boris anymore. I can tap on his avatar here and then go in and say, let's just mute him in cover stories. Or if he's particularly, annoying, I can mute him from all of Flipboard, and I'll never see a post from him on Flipboard again.
Interesting.
So if you've got like an annoying high school friend or something on Facebook, you can mute them across all of Flipboard.
Can you mute by topic? For instance,
not yet.
Newt Gingrich is running for president, right?
Right.
And if I don't want to ever see Newt Gingrich discussed anywhere,
we're working on that.
Okay.
That's for a subsequent release, but we are working on that. Like if you don't want to see any posts from South by Southwest, you're just tired of seeing all those posts, you should be able to mute that, and that's something that we're working on.
Now, I haven't seen many ads yet. How are you guys going to make money with this?
Well, ads aren't available on the iPhone release yet, but we do ads on the iPad. And there what we do is we can paginate the content, and then we put in full-page ads that the publisher themselves sell against their own content. And then we do a revenue split with them.
Very cool.
Yeah. And
how's that going?
Oh, it's going very well. We're just a couple months in right now, but it's a really good.
I like the ads, and I because of the flipping, there's an affordance for advertising, which there isn't when you go to a blog or something, and you see all those ads are down the side, you ignore them.
Right.
It's,
That's right.
Because ads are part of the media.
Well,
landscape.
ads, I mean, in fact, if you talk to somebody who reads Vogue magazine, they wouldn't want to buy Vogue magazine without the ads.
Right.
If you read Mountain Biking magazine, right, you want to see the ads that come with the magazine.
Yep.
Those are part of the content, and they look beautiful, and they're integrated in a really nice way. They're not popping up over the content, right, while you're trying to read it. They're not on the same page competing for real estate, for attention from the user. They're oftentimes given a nice big full page or full page spread. And that's something that we're trying to simulate on the iPad. It's a much nicer model. And also is better for the publisher because they can actually monetize their content far more effectively.
Yeah. You guys still are supporting RSS, right?
Well, of course. Everything here is still based on, from an architectural point of view, RSS to render content from our partners. We use RSS as the sort of underpinnings for what content can be presented to the reader. So, for example, the New York Times might have one sentence of content and no image, whereas Fast Company puts like the entire article in their RSS. And so we will render based on what the publisher does, and we do that via RSS. So when somebody tweets a link to an article, we go look up what that article looks like in RSS and then render it that way.
Now, I know you hired Philippe Fortes recently.
Yes,
Are you
yes.
working on a web version of this?
We, Philippe is helping us with our Flipboard pages work, which is all done in HTML5. So that article, let me show you that Dwell article, come back to that. I showed you it on the iPad. Here it is. This Dwell article is rendered in HTML5. And I showed it to you on the iPad. Here it is on the iPhone. And you can see it's very readable. It's easy to flip through. I can tap on this icon here to get a caption.
Yep.
I can, and what's really nice is, watch this, I can just sort of quickly scan through. If I see an image that's interesting, I can come back up, tap on the image, zoom in, right? All of this is done in HTML5. And this is the kind of work that Philippe is expert at. He's been working his whole career on paginating content and rendering it in HTML5 in a magazine-like fashion. And so he's helping us on the iPad and the iPhone, and yes, anything we do on the web, he'll be front and center on.
Oh, so are you announcing that you're working
no,
on the web?
I mean, it's certainly
I there.
to the extent that we ever do anything on the web, far into the future, no, we're really focused on iOS. That is the platform. We like the mobile environment, and we think that people with an iPhone and iPad, they're our target audience, and so that's what we're focused on.
What are you seeing in terms of numbers on this? How is iOS doing as a platform, and what are you seeing are you sharing any numbers of what you're?
Well, we have
flips you're getting.
Yeah, we're at about I think 600 million flips per month right now. We are
That's a lot of flipping.
Yeah, it's a lot of flipping. We have about a total of somewhere in the neighborhood of 4.2 million readers today. We have. Let's see, there's some other stats I can share with you. Our peak usage hours are 8 to 11 o'clock at night.
Which makes sense because that's where you have your iPad on the
That's
couch.
right, that's right. And also in the morning, you look at Flipboard with coffee, right? So that's our second peak hour.
My theory is the iPhone is going to flatten that out a little bit.
That's right. That's what we're hoping. That's part of the reason why we wanted to do the iPhone release, is that it really fills out the day, and we think that people will be able to use Flipboard, probably a lot more frequently. It will pull them back to use the product, on a more regular basis, in the evenings and so on. With Flipboard accounts, everything is synced. So that's it is going to be exciting to see how the usage patterns change.
Are you keeping track of how good a curator we are? If we keep using Flipboard and sharing and retweeting and favoriting and liking, you're keeping a lot of data on what kind of person I am and how good I am at bringing good content to people, right?
That is an excellent question, and something that we're thinking a lot about. Flipboard in many ways is about celebrating the curator. It's about putting the curators front and center and allowing them to present content in really new and interesting packages. And so that's something that we're excited about, figuring out ways to enhance and to emphasize throughout the product. We'd love to have, the notion of really great curators, a curator leaderboard, for example, things like that. So we're thinking about that, and you'll see some stuff from us over the coming months there.
I'm about to go to Facebook and go talk to the Open Graph team. Are you thinking about how to share what behaviors you're doing here into the Open Graph, which is other people are calling frictionless sharing? In other words, like when I go to the Washington Post and Facebook and I read an article there, everybody who's a friend of mine knows that I read that article.
Right.
Is that something you're thinking about?
Well, we are certainly thinking about that. I think that's a major trend, and we are working closely with Facebook and talking to them about the Open Graph. People who are reading on Flipboard aren't necessarily thinking that everything they're reading is automatically shared with everyone else, right? And so what we have to do is, to the extent people want that functionality, create a way from a user interface point of view that it's clear that that's the mode you're entering. So we have some work to do there, and we have some ideas on that front that we're talking over with Facebook, and so we'll see where that goes. But it is a really interesting trend. Being able to do more frictionless anything in social is a good thing. One of the things I really love about this version of Flipboard on the iPhone is that it is so frictionless to like something or to favorite something. And those are really important signals. And in a way that is sharing then to your community on Facebook that I liked this article, right? Yeah. So it is pretty friction-free already.
Yeah, if you ever do go Open Graph, you have to work with Facebook to not overwhelm everybody's ticker, because I read so many articles on Flipboard that all they would see is Robert Scoble read, Robert Scoble read, Robert Scoble read, Robert Scoble flipped, Robert Scoble did this.
Exactly. Yeah.
and they're already getting overwhelmed with my Spotify, right?
Yeah.
My music listening behavior. So
yeah, no, that's right. And it's important to think about perhaps more meaningful signals that sort of put some context around the things that you're reading, right? Yeah. It'd be interesting to get a signal that was like, Robert Scoble's reading, a bunch of articles on Occupy Wall Street, for example, right? Yeah. These are things that I think are important concepts that magazines have done for decades now, that we think we can apply to social media to package up content in ways that are much more digestible. And rather than just looking at a pure chronologically ordered feed, pull things together in ways that make more sense to readers.
Yeah. Are you doing anything specific with video? I see video once in a while, and my videos show up in Flipboard here and there. Can I search like a Twitter list and just say show me only video? Don't show me any. Are you thinking about doing that kind of content type specific display?
We do have video specific lists on Flipboard that we've curated. Okay. So for example, I can go here on my iPhone and let's just go take a look at Vimeo, for example. And this is just terrific content that I can flip through, and I can play any of this,
that's really cool.
Yeah, and it works really nicely. And of course, video is integrated into articles and things, which you'll see oftentimes.
And by the way, I saw the AirPlay icon there, so something's going on. Yeah. So you can push that video over to an Apple TV.
Yes, you can push it to an Apple TV. Exactly, we support all that functionality.
That's why one reason to stay on iOS, right?
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, there's a lot of innovation that we can do on iOS, and we want to be careful not to spread ourselves too thin across lots of different platforms too quickly, because then it's that much harder for us to innovate and work on big new things. This release on the iPhone was something that we wanted to make from the ground up, a totally new design geared around the iPhone form factor. And we wanted to do something that was really meant to be the kind of thing that you would check while you were standing in line at Starbucks. And that really required a completely new approach to what Flipboard is. And if we were spread out across lots of different platforms and just sort of quickly moved our iPad release and shrunk it down to all these other platforms, it would have been impossible to do that. So I think we're ending up, while we may not be on as many platforms as folks would like, it's actually, I think we're ending up with better quality products, across the platforms that we are on.
Absolutely. Thanks for spending almost 40 minutes with me.
My pleasure. Yeah. Really great to talk to you.
I'm running late for Facebook, so
all right.
I gotta get out of here. Where do I find Flipboard?
Flipboard.com. Flipboard.com. We're on the App Store as well.
And you're on Twitter and Facebook.
Yep, at Flipboard.
And you're on Google Plus even, I saw.
Yes, that's right.
Are you doing anything with Google Plus?
As soon as they have APIs available, we'll do something with them.
All right,
Absolutely.
I'll keep banging on my friend Vic Condotra.
Yes, please do. Please do. Tell him I said hi.
Well, thanks.
Great to
that's
see
one
you,
thing
Robert.
I'm looking forward to having on Flipboard is the last bastion of content that I read a lot. That,
Yeah.
I can't get on Flipboard. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
My pleasure. Great to have you here. Content through the lens of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. It's more about looking and finding at all the things your friends are sharing, and what might be a photograph that they took at a party over the weekend, right next to an article that they posted about Iran. And this is what I think is so revolutionary about social media. And so we really wanted to seize that opportunity. A lot of the other folks are doing personalized news, right?
Yeah.
So they're new takes on personalized news that are rendered on an iPad. And those are great products as well. But this is something that does news. We do news, but it's really more in the broad context of social media.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the iPhone. How do you the iPad has a surface that has an affordance for reading news.
Yeah.
And it looks sort of like a magazine or a book, or
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it has a surface that makes it nice to read news. So how do you translate that to the small screen of the iPhone?
Well, that is the design challenge. You nailed it right there. That is the big challenge. And now the iPhone is the number one thing that our users have been requesting. They want to, but don't see on a website.
So, first of all, you've been faced with a lot of competition in the last year.
Yeah.
I mean, AOL has a thing,
Yeah.
Editions, I think they call it. CNN bought Zeit, and there's Pulse, and there's Google's supposed to be working on something, and I mean, you must feel like God, everybody's after you.
It is a little weird. Every week or so, it seems I wake up to an article about some Flipboard killer or something. But I think that this is a very exciting space. When you look at something as revolutionary as the iPad, and that combining with social media, and then also from a technological point of view, HTML5, and you bring those things together, you have a recipe for amazing innovation. Each one of these companies that you mentioned are taking a very different approach to that mixture, right? Flipboard is very heavily social. So that's one thing where we're very different than all of the other folks that you mentioned. We are really about looking at your social media. And so we look at all this content now available on your Flipboard.
Yeah, 500 pixel, the 500px is beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Really
And it's incredible service. Yeah, I mean, it's like high-end Flickr. Really gorgeous. So, we're trying to pull all these different social networks into this one beautiful package. And then we created Flipboard accounts so that ultimately people can bring that package with them to the iPhone.
Now, let's back up a second, because I haven't been to see you on video for a while. You guys have a ton of competition. I mean, and it's rumored to be more coming, right? So what is Flipboard, first of all, for the people who don't know what it is and they haven't yet got an iPad or just got an iPad for Christmas or something crazy like that?
Well, Flipboard is a social magazine, and it's basically a way to look at all the things that your friends are sharing with you across all the different social networks that you use. Facebook, Twitter, Flickr, Instagram, 500 pixels now, Tumblr, etc. And we organize all this content in a way that's reminiscent of print. It uses the timeless principles of print, pagination, beautiful photography, beautiful typography, a sense of pacing and flow and rhythm through timelines and stories. That is really what Flipboard is all about. And it's been an amazing ride over the last year and a half since we shipped it.
Yeah. You don't just have social networks either, right? You have brands like Rolling Stone, Economist, National Geographic, and a bunch of others.
Well, these are the things that people are sharing on these social networks, right? People are going to The Economist and sharing an article, on Facebook or on Twitter. There are billions of posts a day on Facebook, and Twitter, I think, is somewhere in the neighborhood of 180 million tweets a day. This is an amazing time we're living in, where all of these traditional brands are being shared now on these social networks. And so what we wanted to do was make those brands look amazing on these social networks when you view them on an iPad. Yeah. And so we bring back the notion of pagination for something like Vanity Fair or National Geographic. We bring back the kinds of beautiful layouts that you typically see in a magazine.
Your EDID. Okay.
So who are you?
Mike McCue,
And we're at Flipboard.
it's great to have you back.
Yeah, it's my
exciting.
favorite, still my favorite iPad app.
I am very happy to hear that.
And everybody else in the industry, I give them hell. Have you gotten to the Flipboard bar yet?
Well, hopefully we'll be your favorite iPhone app soon.
Oh, tell me about that.
Well, that is the next. We've been working very hard on that. That is, it's been quite a journey, and we've tried to take a lot of the thinking around Flipboard, the idea of a social magazine, all your friends sharing things with you across all these social networks, and putting it together in one beautiful package, and bring that to the iPhone. Yeah. And so we've actually started getting prepared by introducing Flipboard accounts, which you know about. Yeah. We also introduced Tumblr and 500 Pixels as two new social networks.